Good day everyone, my name is Krystal Candelario from Group 4. So I will discuss the first part of Chapter 5, Transfer of Training. Transfer of training refers to a trainees effectively and continually applying what they learn in training, knowledge, skills, behaviors, cognitive strategies to their job. Transfers of training refers to the trainees implementing what they gain in training to their job in an effective and consistent manner. As the non-profit organization in the opening vignette illustrate, the work environment and training characteristics play an important role in ensuring that the transfers of training occurs. Transfers of trainings is also influenced by training design. Despite the importance of transfer of training and the emphasis that some companies are placing on it, research suggests that only 62% of employees transfer training immediately after completing training programs. This statistic decreased to 34% 1 year after training. This figure represents a model of the transfer process. This model is useful for considering what you can do to ensure that trainees, a characteristic, training design, and the work environment are conducive to transfer of training. The chapter is organized based on this model. As the model shows, transfer of training includes both the generalization of training to the job and the maintenance of learning materials. Generalization is to the trainee's ability to apply learning capabilities, verbal knowledge, motor skills, and etc. to on-the-job work problems and situations that are similar but not identical to those problems and situations encountered in the learning environment. And maintenance is the process of continuing to use newly acquired capability over time. For generalization and maintenance to occur, capabilities must be learned and retained. This model showed three factors that influence learning and transfer of training: training design, training characteristics, and the work environment. First is training characteristic. Training characteristic includes ability and motivation. The influence of training characteristic on their learning was discussed in Chapter 3 and 4. If trainee lacks the basic skills needed to master main capability, are not motivated to learn, and do not believe that they can master the learned capabilities, it is doubtful that learning and transfer of training will occur. Second is training design. Refers to the characteristic of the learning environment. Chapter 4 covered important features of the learning environment, including meaningful materials, opportunities to practice, feedbacks, learning objective, program, organization, and physical features of the training site. Lastly, the work environment includes factor on the job that influence transfer of training, sex of manager, support, peer support, technology support, the climate for transfer, and the opportunity to use newly acquired capabilities on their job. Next is training design. Training designs refers to a factor built into the training program to increase the changes that transfers of training will occur. Training design is an element used into a training program to maximize the likelihood of training transfer. Application of transfer of training theory. Three theories of transferring of training have implication for training design: the learning environment, the theory of identical element, the stimulus generalization approach, and the cognitive theory of transfer. This table shows each theory's primary emphasis and the condition under which it is the most appropriate to consider. First is theory Identical elements. Emphasis training environment is identical to work environment. Appropriate condition, work environment, future are predictable and stable. Example, training to use equipment. Type of transfer, near. So, theory of identical element proposed that transfer of training occurs when what is being learned in the training session is identical to what the trainee has to perform on the job. Transfer will be maximized to the degree that the task, materials, equipment, and other characteristics of the learning environment are similar to those encountered in the work environment. The identical elements approach was also being used to develop instrument design to measure the similarity of job. Similarity can be used as one measure of the extent to which training in the knowledge and skill required for one job prepares an employee to perform a different job. The theory of identical elements was being applied to many training programs, particularly those that deals with the use of equipment or that involves specific procedure that must be learned. Identical elements theory is particularly relevant in making sure that near transfer occurs. Near transfer refers to a trainee's ability to apply learning capabilities exactly to the work situation. Program that emphasizes near transfer should include the following trainings design. First is the program should teach a specific concept and procedure. Second is trainees should be given an explanation as to any difference between training tasks and work tasks. Third is trainees should be encouraged to work only on important difference between training tasks and work tasks rather than unimportant difference. Lastly is behavior or skill that trainees learn in the program should contribute to effective performance. Second theory is theory stimulus generalization. Emphasis, general principles are applicable to many different work situations. Appropriate condition, work environment is unpredictable and highly variable. Example, training in interpersonal skills. Type of transfer, PAR. The theory stimulus generalization approach suggests that the way to understand the transfer of training issue is to construct training so that the most important features or general principle are emphasized. It is also important to identify the range of work situation in which this general principle can be applied. The stimulus generation approach emphasizes part transfer. Part transfer refers to the trainee's ability to apply learning capabilities to the work environment, even though the work environment is not identical to that of the training section. Program that emphasizes part transfer should include the following training design. The program should teach general concepts and work principles. Second is training should be made aware of examples from their experience that are similar to those emphasis in training so that connection can be made among strategies that have been effective in different situations. Lastly is the program should emphasize that the general principles may be applied to a greater set of contexts that those present in the training settings. Also, stimulus generalization approach can be seen in the design of managerial skills training program known as behavior modeling training, which are based on social learning theory. Third theory is cognitive theory. Emphasis meaningful materials and coding streams enhance storage and recalls of training content. Appropriate condition, all types of training and environment, type of transfer, near at and par. The cognitive theory of transfer is based on the information process theory of learning discussed in Chapter 4. So, storage and retrieval of information are key aspects of this model of learning. So, a cognitive theory of transfer, the likelihood of transfer depends on the trainee's ability to retrieve learning capabilities. This theory suggests that the likelihood of transfer is increased by providing trainees with meaningful materials that enhance the changes that they will link what they encounter in the work environment to the learning capability. Also important is providing the trainee with cognitive strategies for coding the learning capabilities in memory so that they are easily retrievable. The influence of cognitive theory is seen in training design that encourage trainees as a part of the program to consider potential application of the training content to their job. Many training programs include having trainee identify a work problems or situational and discuss the potential application of training content. The application assignment increases the likelihood that trainee will recall the training contents and apply it to work setting when they encounter the appropriate cause in the environment. Encourage trainee responsibility and self-management. Trainee needs the responsibility for learning and transfer. This includes preparing for training, being involved and engaged during training, content back on the job. Trainees must be responsible for their own learning and transfer. This comprise preparing for trainings, participating in all engaging in training, and returning to work. Self-management refers to a person's attempt to control certain aspects of decision making and behavior. Training programs should prepare employees to self-manage their use of new skills and behavior on the job. Self-management. Self-management is a term that describes a person's endeavor to exert control over a certain element of their decision-making and behavior. Employees should be able to self-manage their usage of new skills and behavior on the job after completing a training program. Self-management involves first is determining the degree of support and negative consequence in the work settings for using newly acquired capabilities. Second is setting goals for using learning capabilities. Third is applying learning capabilities to the job. Fourth is monitoring use of learning capabilities on the job. Fifth is engaging in self-reinforcement. Self-management is important because the trainee is likely to encounter several obstacles in the work environment that inhibit transfer of training. Career needs and interests of different generation of employees or employee cohort likely have different career needs and interests. Understanding generational difference is important if a company wants to provide the work conditions that will contribute to employee satisfaction and retention of good employees. Gen Z, more so that previous generation, appear to place higher importance on work-life balance, opportunities for growth, and good work relationship. Baby boomers appears to want to meaningful work rather than flexibility in work scheduling. The baby boom generation was supplied companies which are well-educated, knowledgeable, hardworking, and career-oriented workforce. As the baby boomers age and eventually retired, they are considered that they will be discriminated against based on inappropriate stereotypes that they are unable or unwilling to learn, less productive, and would prefer to stop working. This table shows examples of obstacles in the work environment that inhibit transfers of training. First is work condition, time pressure, inadequate equipment, few opportunities to use skills, inadequate budget, descriptions of influence, trainee has difficulty using new knowledge, skills, or behavior. Second is lack of peer support, discourage use of new knowledge and skills on the job, are unwilling to provide feedback, see training as a waste of time. Description of influence is peers do not support use of new knowledge, skills, or behavior. Third is lack of management support. Those not accept ideas or suggestions that are learned in training. Those not discuss training opportunities, oppose use of skills learning in training, communicate that training is a waste of time, is unwilling to provide reinforcement, feedback, and encouragement needed for trainees to use training content. Description of influence, managers do not reinforce training or provide opportunity to use new knowledge, skills, or behavior. These obstacles inhibit transfer because they cause lapses. Lapses takes place when the trainee uses previously learning less effective capabilities instead of trying to apply the capability emphasis in the training program. Lapses is into old behavior and skill patterns are common. Trainees should try to avoid a consistent pattern of slipping back or using old ineffective learning capability. Also, trainees should understand the lapses are common and be prepared to cope with them. Trainees who are unprepared for lapses may give up trying to use new capability, especially trainees with low self-efficacy and self-confidence. This table shows sample of content of self-management module. First is discuss lapses. Second is identify skills target for transfer. Third is identify personal or environment factor contributing to lapse. Fourth is discuss coping skills and strategies. Fifth is identify when lapses are likely. Lastly is discuss resources to ensure transfers of skills. This module begins with a discussion of lapses, emphasizing the lapses are not evidence of personal inadequate, rather they result for habit of usage of knowledge and skills that have developed over time. Lapses provide information necessary for improvement. They help identify the circumstance that will have the most negative influence or transfer of training. Next, a specific behavior, skills, or strategy is target for transfer. The skills should be measurable and countable. Then obstacles that inhibit transfer of training are identified. This can include both work environment characteristic and personal characteristic. Trainees are provided with an overview of coping skills or strategy that they can use to deal with the obstacle. These skills and strategy includes time management, creating a person support network, and self-monitoring to identify success in transferring skills to the job. Next is to deal with lapses. Trainees are instructed to be aware of where the situations are most likely to occur. The final part of the modules deals with the use of resources and aid transfer of training. These resources may include communication with the trainee or fellow trainees via emails, as well as discuss with their boss. That's all for my report. Thank you.